Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Let me give just one more minute to make sure everyone gets in from the waiting room. I think that's probably everyone now. Is that right, Alonso? All right. Well, we're going to get started. My name is Heather McRae, and I'm the Executive Director of the Climate Justice Resilience Fund, CJRF. Today, I'm delighted that we're going to have a very special event here on the importance and impact of funding for addressing non-economic loss and damage. Non-economic loss and damage, or NELD, is a pretty new area of action under climate justice. And the work that we have been doing has been funded by the Scottish government, building on our loss and damage work that began in 2021. This webinar is a reflection on and a celebration of the work being done by CJRF partners around the globe who have been developing NELD projects for their communities. And over the next hour, you'll hear directly from some of our partners via in-person testimonies, videos, pictures, and other showcases of the real-life impact of this work on NELD. Then we'll look forward to welcoming you to participate in an interactive activity to hear about your own experience and your own understanding of NELD. We have several partners presenting today. I'm excited to hear from Jude Sebeliba, who's head of programs at Pelham, Participatory Ecological Land Use Management in Uganda. We'll also hear from Deanna Johnson, the senior impact storyteller at the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, UUSC. Shampa Goswami is Executive Director of Prerona in Bangladesh. She's going to speak, but also has a video. And lastly, Maritza Calderon, who is the Regional Coordinator for Fundación Barranquilla. She has shared a pre-recorded presentation. Just a bit of housekeeping. Please keep your microphones muted throughout to respect those presenting. Live Spanish translation is available throughout this webinar, and Spanish language instructions for accessing translation will go into the chat now. We're planning 5 minutes for a Q&A, questions and answers, at the end of the webinar. So please put any questions you'd like answered in the meeting chat. It would help us if you can clearly state who the question is for or what partner it's linked to, and then we'll try to get the right person to answer and answer as many questions as possible. I'm going to pass over now to Aisha Dinshaw, the Loss and Damage Program Officer at CJRF. She will provide an overview of our NELD portfolio and speak a bit about why addressing NELD can be a powerful tool in building resilience. Aisha?
Thanks so much, Heather. And hi, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. The purpose of this overview section is to help you see the common threads that connect up our diverse loss and damage portfolio. You'll hear lots of details from our amazing partners shortly, and while our role at CJRF is primarily to fund these partners and their communities, we're also in a very privileged position to be able to make sense of this portfolio as a whole and to see how loss and damage funding is really more than the sum of its parts. Since 2021, CJRF has channeled over $6 million to 65 partners worldwide to address loss and damage. We fund partners who work closely with their communities and have inclusive mechanisms for enabling community members to determine how these funds are used. As we all know, some climate crisis impacts are starkly visible, like loss of land or livelihoods, but others are much harder to see, but they're nonetheless devastating, such as the loss of indigenous languages and traditions, the disconnection between generations due to migration, and the erosion of dignity, health, and hope. Over the last 2.5 years, our work and our funding has focused on this type of non-economic loss and damage, or NELD. So the majority of the partners represented on this map that you see focus their work on NELD. We also have learning and advocacy partners that we fund, and they help support the implementation partners that are doing the work on the ground. These learning and advocacy partners' logos are at the bottom of the screen, and we're really grateful to them for their ongoing support and engagement. So I'm going to share a few things of what we have learned. One of the things that we've heard from both funders and partners is about how they have been engaging in the issues that we call NELD, but without using this label. And that addressing NELD is not just nice to have, but it's actually essential to making sure that climate finance secures long-term solutions. That said, when people face urgent economic loss and damage, like suddenly losing their home or their source of income, it is nearly impossible for them to prioritize the associated non-economic losses. So having dedicated funding for NELD is important because without it, NELD remains extremely underfunded. At the same time, there is a false binary between economic and non-economic loss and damage that really undermines holistic support at the community level. And finally, that NELD is sometimes considered an endless investment with unclear returns. But through our partners' work, we see how it is central to ensuring the enduring or long-term impact that climate finance can have. Lately, we've been thinking a lot about the power of addressing NELD, and we have a recent publication about this, and the publication is the basis for the next 4 points that I'll make, and you can access the publication through the link in the chat. Each of the following slides will also include a cartoon, which was created by Rohan Chakravarti, who supported CJRF during 3 recent peer learning exchanges that brought together partners from across our global portfolio. And we're really grateful for his engagement in this work with us. So the first really powerful thing about NELD that I want to share is that it strengthens community stability. Addressing NELD strengthens aspects of community members' lives, such as food security, water management, and social cohesion, which in turn strengthens individual and community stability. So in this way, loss and damage funding can help create a stable base on which future climate finance investments can build. A second powerful aspect of funding NELD is that it can support communities holistically. When approached through an intersectional lens, NELD funding can address underlying structures that reinforce exclusion and injustice on issues such as gender equality, mental health, and accessibility. It recognizes that people experience climate impacts in different and overlapping ways, and that for some groups, climate harms compound pre-existing marginalization. The third way that NELD funding is powerful is that it not only responds to immediate climate impacts, but also creates lasting benefits that can underpin future adaptation and development over time. So by addressing a whole range of issues from physical and mental health to dignity and autonomy to migration, addressing NELD today safeguards the impacts of tomorrow's adaptation and development investments. And finally, NELD funding is powerful because it promotes self-determination. Addressing NELD requires approaches that are flexible, locally led, and grounded in people's actual lived experience. A community-led approach acknowledges that loss and damage is complex, context-specific, and constantly evolving. It starts by identifying partners who excel at inclusive community engagement and by providing flexible funding. Up next, we have a video compilation of some of our partners and their community members speaking about the impact of their NELD work. This webinar will feature several videos so that you can see partners' contexts and places that they call home and hear their stories in their own voices. And after that video, Ritu Gupta, who is CJRF's Gender Integration and Resource Coordinator, will introduce projects and partners across different regions that we have the pleasure of highlighting and celebrating today. Thank you.
Hi, I am Ranjan Panda, Senior Advisor to INA, which is implementing the CJRF-supported non-economic loss and damage project in the Bay of Bengal, especially in the Odisha state. Thanks to the project, the communities in the coastal areas of Odisha now realize that non-economic losses and damages such as loss of identity, loss, increase in mental stress, and so many others, of these kind of impacts should actually be counted as disasters in a sense, and they should be talked about in their own places as well as in different forums and with government. Thank you.
Direct funding from NELD has enabled us engage the district officials, and because of that they have clear understanding of the different climatic issues faced by the women and girls with disabilities. Because of that, we have inclusive budget allocations from the district conferences, and because of that, the women and girls with disabilities have received agricultural inputs leading to food security.
Hola, soy Karina Costilla, coordinadora territorial del PRATEC y me conecto desde Ancash, en los Andes del Perú. El mayor cambio ha sido ver a las juventudes reconectarse con su cultura local y aprender prácticas ancestrales resilientes para enfrentar los efectos del cambio climático. Nos alegra recuperar la biodiversidad, la seguridad alimentaria y el cuidado del paisaje. Gracias a este financiamiento, los jóvenes y los guardianes de la sabiduría están construyendo una gobernanza territorial que mantiene nuestros ecosistemas sanos.
My name is Benjamin from Sangida Foundation. NELD funding has really reconnected me to my community and my people. I've understood a lot of traditions and values, and as a young youth, this has really ignited a fire in me to continue to learn about my culture and the history of my people. I've started healing from the effects of climate change, and that has really given me to be proud about my culture. Thank you.
My name is Sharon Lu from Action Network for the Disabled. Direct funding to address NELD in our community has helped us strengthen the resilience of persons with disabilities who are often the most affected by climate impact. Through this support, communities have been able to document non-economic loss, such as loss of cultural identity, dignity, and social inclusion, while promoting locally led solutions. It has also empowered persons with disabilities to actively participate in climate justice conversation and community recovery efforts. Thank you.
My name is Josephine Kiru from Queen of Peace Initiative in Isiolo, Northern Kenya. Our community has faced non-economic loss and damage, the loss of culture, knowledge, social cohesion, and connection to land. But with direct NELD funding and the introduction of NELD kits, we have seen really change. These kits have sparked awareness, shifted mindset, and inspired people to actively protect what truly matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Hi, everyone. It is wonderful to be here with all of you today. Now we will be hearing from our first of several of our funding partners joining us live. The first one being Jude Sibiliba from Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, Pelham. Pelham's work is based in the highlands of southwestern Uganda, where the Batwa community continue to live with the long-term consequences of displacement following their eviction from ancestral forest lands in 1991 for conservation purposes. Today, this already marginalized community is facing intensifying climate impacts, droughts, soil degradation, and declining biodiversity, which are deeply affecting their forest-based ways of life. Pelham is a grassroots network of 75 civil society organizations working with smallholder farmers to improve livelihoods and promote ecological sustainability. Their work addresses non-economic loss and damage in ways that are grounded in dignity, community leadership, and lived realities, demonstrating what meaningful community-led climate finance can look like in practice. Welcome, Jude.
Thank you very much, Rachel, for the introduction. Yeah, my name is Jude and I represent Pelham, Uganda. Briefly, we are a civil society organization that promotes agroecology to the small-scale farmers, to the indigenous peoples, and the pastoralists. And the project we are running is implemented among the Batwa communities who faced a lot of non-economic loss as a result of being expelled from their natural habitation, which was the forest, and the dispersion without a clear resettlement plan led to food insecurity, loss of indigenous knowledge, biodiversity and cultural erosion, lack of heritage, and a sense of humanness almost dying out. Using the funding from for NED, we have had two interventions. The first directly focusing on the communities to build their resilience, sense of solidarity, build their knowledge so that they do not destroy the environment that has been a crime before, but also on the side of the government doing some advocacy to make sure that they respect the people. That is what we have in terms of documenting indigenous knowledge, promote traditional practices so that they can be passed on the future generation, building capacity of women and youth in proper natural resource management, promoting livelihood diversification so they cannot think in terms of going back to the forest, awareness creation of natural resource management so that they do not themselves participate in the destruction of the environment, capacity building on advocacy so they can sustainably continue demanding what deserves them even after the end of the project. And also, for a start, we are trying to create engagement platforms with the duty bearers for them to engage on the rights that befit themselves. As a result, we have set the communities on a sustainable path to develop their confidence, feel human again, strengthen community solidarity, and sustainably claim their rights. So far, we have seen their confidence, that is the Batwa, uh, to challenge power strengthened than before. We have seen them coming back to gather, to collect together, to use the old ones to transfer knowledge, culture, traditions to the younger generations. We call them moving libraries. We have seen that confidence going to claiming and access to development programs like the PDM, which involves gives people money that they were not accessing, but from the government. And also, we have seen them improving advocacy and influence on land and compensation matters that have affected them before. So, that cohesion that we are building, we think is going to create momentum, help them continue to stay together to claim their rights, but also to pass on all that was lost as a result of being dispersed from their natural areas, which was the forest. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for sharing the experience of addressing NELD from the ground in Uganda. And I would just like to request everyone who have joined us here today, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And we have some of our speakers joining us live, so it would be really helpful to have your questions, and it's a good opportunity for us to hear from them directly. Next, we are going to introduce Deanna Johnson from Unitarian Universalist Service Committee.
Thank you, Rita.
And we'll give a brief background. So we move across from the Indian Ocean to Fiji now. We have Deanna with us, who's a senior impact storyteller from UUSC. And the Pacific Islands is not a region where CJRF is historically funded. So, however, through a long-standing relationship with UUSC, we've been able to thoughtfully and intentionally channel support to this region. What makes this partnership with UUSC particularly meaningful is its strong alignment with CJRF's values, especially their commitment to participatory grant-making, intersectionality, accompaniment, and learning. They bring deep regional knowledge and trusted relationships, allowing funding to reach communities in ways that are responsive, locally grounded, and intersectional in approach. This collaboration reflects how partnerships can help us expand our geographic reach while staying rooted in our core principles. Over to you, Tiana. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ritu, and hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here today. Like Ritu mentioned, my name is Deanna Johnson, or DJ. I'm with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. In a moment, we're going to show a brief video created by Climate Talk, who is one of UUSC's partners, based in Fiji. They're an organization creating networks and sustainable solutions to the effects of non-economic loss and damage. Due to the time difference, unfortunately, we don't have a representative from Climate Talk here with us today. So I will just have to do. So hundreds of individuals and families have been forced to relocate from their homes and communities throughout Fiji due to the effects of climate change. Climate change, and specifically non-economic loss and damage, creates real, tangible impact on Fijian communities every day. Changing seawaters and pollution bleach the coral that fish rely on to survive. The constant threat of landslides and flooding creates anxiety in community members, affecting both their mental and their physical health. And the plants, foods, and waterways that the communities once relied on are quickly disappearing. This is what the impact of NELD looks like. Not only does the climate crisis endanger the flora and the fauna of Fiji, but it also directly threatens cultural practices like meke, which is a cultural dance, and community well-being. Climate Talk works with these affected Fijian communities to provide solutions, support, and skills building. Climate Talk prioritizes long-lasting connection and has created a network of community leaders who are actively looking to solve the issues of NELD in their communities. Now we will show a short film outlining the intersectional work that Climate Talk has been doing to address NELD in Fiji. Enjoy.
The land that feeds us, the sea that feeds us and protects us, and the environment that shapes our way of life are all under threat. Women, especially in rural areas, carry the heaviest burden. Women also face the most violence in their homes. When disasters strike, it is the women who hold up their families and communities together. But despite this, women are too often left out of decision-making, left out of the very conversations about rebuilding and planning for the future. That must change.
Most of the women participants that came are the women that we have been working with over the last 5 to 7 years, and they represent, their communities, communities which are in either displaced or facing relocation. So, I've seen, big changes in some of these women, and, it's very rewarding to see that the changes that they were able to bring and the changes in their own lives themselves. They're very confident now.
Nunggu mai sa tavira na tambangonya na youth era matataka chikume na non rave koro sangazo e momona na non raulutanga non ramai wasetiko
andra ki bisa sa raktingo sa afekta sarvale mna ngoli sali afekta katalanga na mami huru ni kaka na pambike mna tikuna na korra tikuna batini mata sawa au buli talanga me birna marama kor sara matua tikuna loma ni be yani anungo eviti kora paling kay sartingan raki besaw kena lenga tumbukos
na buli totok ay baka buli jel sarangam niyo ko na bibang dindikat mo wala wayan dua tangi ni dia
nangon endo yang kinan raki besaw esi yang ngani ni terair na bulo binaka na kena tarambing kay may ni mami ng bulo pakalengkay sombe kay na dindi wara sombe kay lenga na nonra rai nabi mati taleso yo kima mi o wasia chiko mana guna ni uni endui na ambula pakalengay endindi tan ngada bitara ngada apa
na rebu ya kau tamai nan raki bisau yang nunggu koro ke mami sandu tutu na leo ni vanua ke membe ya waki ke ne mbale sa me be ya waki talanga kina na ni mami bula ba be kan sa vakata lenga me mai lutu kina sona ni mami tofu vaka vanua o e usarangai na ngonongo na meke ni vanua ukila do binaka rorotu me baleta na meke ni turanga meke ni marama ndina ni sensoti ni wuli binaka undo vola ka ve wasiaka na nungu kila na meke veiro nungu itoka
na katang dona langa chiko weekend na kana singa ndo vaganda ta me vola na tukutuk me baleta na nonda koro eu sangai mai eu samai tukutuk au sabi bisa chiko me na koro me na dona singa me ra kadi me na ngase me ra sulio ira na tukutuk kam.
Thank you so much, Diana, and thank you so much to Climate Talk as well, even though they've not been able to be with us here today. Hopefully they can watch the recording. Up next is a video compilation from our partners, again, who will be sharing their experience of addressing NELD in their own voice. You will see in this video our partners from Bangladesh, Jagrata Juboshongo, Women in the Wild from Masai Mara, Kenya, Baringo Women and Youth Organization from Baringo County, Kenya, Prodi from Northern Potosi, Bolivia, Agenda for Relief and Development Initiative, South Sudan, and Chipka, Bolivia. Enjoy. Thank you.
Before the NELD project, climate migrant families in urban slums lived with silent, hidden, non-economic losses. Since the project start, we have witnessed a powerful transformation. Communities now have safe spaces to share their experiences. Voices that were once unheard are now being recognized, and they are coming together to rebuild trust and support each other. This project is turning silent suffering into shared strength and hope.
This is Isa, representing women in the wild from Masai Mara, Kenya. And one progress that have been observed in the community in terms of addressing non-economic loss and damage is that there is increased recognition of the non-economic loss and damage, like mental health awareness in terms of catastrophes, in terms of floods. These things used to exist, but people did not acknowledge and recognize them. And by recognizing them, it becomes easier to find solutions to these problems.
My name is Eunice Leparia, Executive Director of Baringo Women and Youth Organization. Direct funding to address NELD in Ilchamus community has helped us to restore the lost ecosystem through grass reseeding, which will get the pasture for our livestock. Secondly, we put up the cultural center, which will be a documentation center to document the Ilchamus culture and for the young generation to come and explore more on the Ilchamus culture. Thank you.
Hola, soy Félix Vale, director de Prodi. Les saludamos desde el norte de Potosí, Bolivia, y agradecemos al Fondo de Resiliencia para la Justicia Climática por su apoyo. Esta financiación para abordar las pérdidas y daños no económicos fortalece nuestro trabajo con las comunidades, revalorizar los saberes ancestrales y formar líderes como guardianes de la naturaleza y la agrobiodiversidad. Así impulsamos acción comunitaria y resiliencia frente al cambio climático. Gracias.
My name is Edith Konatian, the Executive Director of AIDI, South Sudan. Through CGRF supports, our diverse communities are coming together, healing divisions through dialogues and acting on climate solutions. From restoring lost trees species to empowering women to earn a living with dignity, we are rebuilding both our environment and our social fabrics. This is the power of locally led climate justice. Thank you.
Financiación directa para abordar el NELD en nuestra comunidad nos ha ayudado a pensar en nosotras mismas y a revalorar y a pensar en nuestros saberes ancestrales ante las situaciones que estamos viendo actualmente ante los cambios climáticos. Inclusive, ¿no?, a pensar ya no personalmente, sino en colectivo. Entre todos nos estamos cuidando, ¿no? Nos estamos apoyando. Tal vez no sabíamos valorar antes, ¿no?, nuestras tierras, Y yo agradezco, ¿no?, a la institución que nos ha apoyado, porque gracias a eso también he podido conectar con nuestras raíces, nuestro origen. Todas estamos aprendiendo eso, a protegernos entre mujeres y empoderarnos.
Thank you to all our partners who've contributed to this video and shared with us that what NELD funding has made possible for them. We could hear from silent suffering to shared strength and hope. And the first step is to recognize these losses, and then it makes it possible, it becomes easier to find solutions. Through ecosystem restoration to cultural preservation to revaluing ancestral knowledge and strengthening women's livelihood. Communities are rebuilding both their environment and social fabric while caring for one another and reconnecting to their roots and origins. So thank you once again to all our partners for the first and the second video compilation. Up next is one of our partners. We will be hearing from is Shampa Goswami, Executive Director of Prerona, a women's development organization based in Shatkhira district of Bangladesh. Working in the climate vulnerable Sundarbans, Prerona uses participatory approaches to document, preserve, and sustain the cultural practices, languages, and everyday knowledge system of communities whose lives are being reshaped by climate change. Their work centers the often invisible dimensions of loss and damage, such as erosion of cultural identity, memory, and belonging, especially as experienced by women from Dalit and Adivasi Munda communities. Through their intersectional NELD project, Prerona is not only strengthening climate resilience for future generations, but also creating space for women's leadership, voice, and collective action within their communities. What stands out is how their work bridges culture and resilience, showing that responding to loss and damage is not only about adaptation, but about safeguarding ways of life, dignity, and intergenerational knowledge. Welcome, Shampa. Over to you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ritu, and thank you, everyone. Today, we are very happy to be here with you. And it is a great opportunity for us to share our experience is this webinar. And today, we also feel very happy to be connected with so many organizations and individuals who are working with CGRF. With the support of CGRF, we are working on non-economic loss and damage this project. But through this project, we are trying to preserve the culture and traditions of forest-dependent women and the indigenous Munda community in the Sundarban. Among our many activities, one of our key initiative is the Sundarban Museum, where we are preserving disappearing heritage and traditions. We have completed the legal process and developed our website and media presence in this purpose of museum. And we are truly grateful to CGRF for helping us and turn a long time dream into a very reality. And thank you so much, and thank you for watching our activities video presentation.
আমরা এখন শ্যামনগরের মুন্সিগঞ্জ ইউনিয়নের মালঞ্চ নদী দিয়ে বেয়ে যাচ্ছি। এই জায়গাটা জলবায়ু পরিবর্তনের সংঘাতে জর্জরিত একটি এলাকা। এখানকার মানুষের জীবন আর পাঁচটা এলাকার মানুষের জীবনের মতো না। বিশেষ করে নারীর জীবন, নারীর সংগ্রাম এখানে অন্যরকম এক যুদ্ধ। তার মধ্যে নদীর পাশ দিয়ে যারা বাস করে, নদীর উপরে তাদের জীবন জীবিকা চলে, যারা এখানকার বনজীবী, যারা আদিবাসী, যারা দালিত, তাদের জীবনটা আরো বৈষম্যের আঘাতে জর্জরিত।
At the southernmost part of Bangladesh lies Shamnagar, a place on the front line of climate change. Life here is a daily struggle. The soil is salty, safe drinking water is scarce, and poverty is a part of everyday life. But beyond this visible challenge, something deeper is fading: people's culture, traditions, and identity. Many organizations work here to improve livelihood, but very few focus on culture. Under CGRF Non-Economic Loss and Damage project, we started a different journey to bring back lost stories. With support from the community and local authority, we built a community museum, a place of memory and identity. Local girls led this work. They collected plants, forest fruits, and traditional items no longer in use. We went door to door, gathering lost heritage and preserving them. Local peoples became part of the process, and Munda community found a strength in their roots. This is not just prevention, this is empowerment. We created an art school where children draw the Sundarbans. We also started a language school so their language can live on. We are documenting stories for future generation. Here women risk their life event where elders share and young people learn. These stories are not just memories, they are identity and life. And they will live on today, tomorrow, and for generations to come.
Thank you so much, Shampadi, for sharing how you're working on preserving culture and taking it forward. Now, for our final project spotlight, we turn to the Andes region, sorry, I would like to once again remind everyone, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. And for our final project spotlight, we will now turn to the Andes region, where rural communities are being heavily impacted by retreating glaciers and other climate change pressures. These NELD projects in the Andes were funded more recently than others we've heard from, and we are still in the earlier stages of development, offering important insights into how this work begins to take shape on the ground. We will begin with a short recorded video from Maritza Calderon of Fundación Barranquilla, a youth-led organization based in Colombia. Maritza is the regional coordinator of the project Feminist Climate Gathering in Biocultural Territories for Security, Life, and Peace. As she could not join us live today, I'm not sure if, do we have Maritza with us today? So she has submitted a short video with reflections from the region. Through their work, Fundación Barranquilla brings together intergenerational and feminist approaches to understand and respond to climate-related losses through the recovery of ancestral knowledge, mental health support, and community-led advocacy. What stands out is their holistic approach, recognizing that addressing loss and damage requires sustained, long-term engagement beyond immediate interventions and must be carried forward by communities themselves. Please watch the video by Maritza.
Desde la ruralidad, las pérdidas y daños climáticos nos someten a sinnúmero de condiciones de estrés, de depresión, de angustia, ante la impotencia de no saber, por ejemplo, cómo reaccionar ante la pérdida de un cultivo. Las depresiones o los duelos, por ejemplo, al ver que una fuente de agua se desaparece, una fuente de agua disminuye, que hay una especie de animal, de una fauna silvestre que ya no vuelve. Y se vuelven sobrecargas emocionales para quienes hemos decidido cuidar y sostener el territorio, ¿no? Es por eso que pensar también en los impactos del cambio climático no solo en términos materiales, sino también en términos de la presión psicosocial, psicoemocional que soportamos quienes vivimos en la ruralidad y que acuerpamos, ¿no es cierto?, estas luchas y estos procesos, y que se vuelve también a sobredimensionar cuando somos lideresas, que además de afrontar una lucha desde nuestras fincas, desde nuestras chagras, ayudamos a sostener y a tejer también luchas territoriales. Entonces es lidiar con las angustias propias, con las presiones propias, con las depresiones propias, las de la familia y las del territorio, ¿no? Entonces por ello que es importante y fundamental empezarnos a pensar también cómo nos sostenemos la vida de las cuidadoras y de los procesos que estamos haciéndole la lucha al cambio climático. Bueno, la ancestralidad es importante dentro de los procesos de lucha de resistencia, del cuidado de la casa común, de la lucha contra el cambio climático, porque parte de rememorar la visión de la casa común, de entender la cosmovisión andina, donde se habla de la madre tierra, ¿no? Y desde esa cosmovisión nos posiciona en un lugar que nos invita a repensar y reestructurar las formas en que estamos habitando y en que nos estamos relacionando con el territorio. En este sentido, pues defender las aguas, defender los acuíferos, cuidar las semillas nativas y criollas, cuidar todos los agroecosistemas, la agrobiodiversidad, es entendernos como parte de la gran madre tierra y el asumir el cuidado también de todos estos bienes comunes de la naturaleza desde la ocupación que tenemos como un elemento más del ecosistema y no como un ser que tiene a disposición todos los bienes. Entonces es muy importante. Desde
Great. Well, thank you everyone for your attention so far. We'd now like to go to a participation activity to involve you all in the discussion. My name's Fiona, just for context of who I am. I work at Greenhouse Communications and we've been working with CJRF to put together this event. So I'm now going to lead us through a participation exercise so that we can all reflect on what's been shared today and share, if you'd like, some of your own experiences. We'll be using the platform Menti to share reflections. It's really simple to use. My colleague Alex is putting instructions in the chat now about how you can join the Menti. You can use your mobile device to scan this QR code, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code that Alex has shared in the chat. There are two questions that we'll be reflecting on today. One is we'd like you to share a word that you associate with NELD, and we're going to build a word cloud together. And then the second one is, what have you learned about NELD today that surprised you? And feel free to bring your own experiences into that question too. So what Chloe is going to do now is stop sharing screen and make the switch to Menti. So just give us a second to do that. You will be able to see the QR code again once that's up. But in the meantime, you can use the link and the code in the chat. You'll get a holding page on Menti when you arrive there, and it will change to the correct page once Chloe starts presenting. So I'll just give you a minute or so more to scan the code, 30 seconds or so more, and then we'll get going with the exercise. If you do have trouble accessing Menti, please do just share your words or your reflections in the chat as well, because we can take a look at that as well. If anyone has technical trouble. I can see we've got quite a few people who have joined the Menti now. So I think let's move on and go to question 1. So hopefully your screen on your mobile device or on your computer will have changed. So first of all, we just want to ask, what's a word that you associate with NELD? So please do go ahead and pop your answers in the chat. These are great already. So we have justice, we have resilience, we have personal and emotional, loss of culture, interconnected. Yeah, I think that one's really interesting. Culture is coming out really strong. I think we've seen so much of that today in the presentations, that's a really, really strong part of the process of building back resilience. Transformational, diverse. I've really enjoyed seeing the diversity of projects today and how different communities have responded to the impacts in different ways, depending on their cultural practices and context. Yeah, resilience, culture, justice, and personal is really interesting to see come up really strongly as well. And I think that can really get lost in like conversations of high level conversations around climate finance, is that these are really personal impacts and they need really context specific responses. I'm just going to check the chat as well. We have identity. Yes, absolutely. Okay. People are still adding, which is great. This is a really brilliant word cloud. Restoration, I can see. Community resilience, heritage. Longing is a really interesting one. And I think, yeah, really clear, particularly in Shampa's presentation around the kind of loss of heritage and kind of trying to build that connection back to your past and to your heritage. Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing such brilliant words. And we'll have a record of this. And it's great to see you all participating. I can also see, actually, I've just seen some more words in the chat, erasure and displacement. So slightly kind of more negative words, but obviously really important to acknowledge within this is that it's about how do we tackle how do often responses are geared towards they're not intersectional. And so how do we make sure that they're intersectional? I think for time purposes, we'll move on to the next slide because I want to also make sure we have some time for questions at the end. So this is more of a longer form answer. So you can spend some time, I think you have up to 200 characters. What have you learned about NELD today that surprised you? So please feel free to have a think and pop some answers in and we'll see what comes up. Yeah, I really like that point around people are not only getting funding, but they're also getting agency to work out what to do with the funding in order to be able to repair. I think that's so important and so core to NELD funding. Deeply personal and contextual. Innovative action on the ground for supporting affected communities. Vast amount of different responses in different regions across the globe. Yeah, that's been something that's really stood out for me when compiling all these videos. How disabled people are affected by NELD. Community is the first responder and has the power to change. That's a great one. I think that community agency is really, really strongly coming through. How much recognizing NELD changes what becomes possible. Once losses like cultural erosion or mental health impacts are named, they're no longer abstract. Yes, I think that's come through so clear in what we've seen today. Its effects is lifelong, yes, and often I think we've seen like generational. And so it's really encouraging to see these projects that are working to restore those cultures that have been kind of damaged intergenerationally. Communities are given the time and space to sit with challenges and figure out contextually what works best for them. They're owning these solutions. Restoring and sustaining collective memory. Partners and communities know what they need. Yeah, I think that's really clear as partners and communities are the experts in their own context. Okay, I think because I want to make sure we have a few minutes for questions, I think we'll leave the Menti now, but thank you so much for the importance of funding. I'm glad someone got that in there at the end. That's true. And may there be much more and may it be direct to communities. So thank you for adding that, whoever that was. I'm now going to pick out some questions. I think we've had one question in the chat and we also have some that we can share and ask Shampa and Jude while we have them. I'd love to just ask Shampa and Jude individually each just what's next for their communities and how they plan to build on the important work that you're both doing in your respective communities. Shall I hand to Jude for that first?
Like I explained, our communities have been organized in such a way that they have become stronger. They have developed the agency to continue living together to advocate for the inclusion of the need into the local and national governments. So we hope and we strongly believe that they are going to continue doing this, but also they are also going to use their social infrastructure to pass on what has been lost in terms of the need to their generations, and the generations become stronger also to continue as a unified community which was threatened to die out.
Thank you, Jude. Shampa, did you have anything to share around hopes for the future and plans for the future in your community?
Yeah, thank you for this question. In our community, actually, we want to continue building on this work by strengthening culture and prevention and community awareness also. And we will keep engaging local people, especially women, youth, and expand our initiative like the Sundarban Museum. And our goal is to ensure one traditional knowledge and identity are protect for in a future generation. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Shampa. And we have had one question from Erin from the Loss and Damage Coalition. It's quite complex, and I'm not sure we'll have the time now to address it. But I think I can simplify it and just ask both Jude and Shampa, what was the kind of process of identifying community needs that include adaptation and loss and damage? And then what was the experience of accessing funding to address those priorities? I appreciate it's quite a technical question, but I'd love to hear if either of you have any thoughts on that.
Fiona, can I come in to translate that question for
Yes, of
Shampa?
course, please do.
Yeah, thank you. Shampadi, so the question they're asking, মানে ওরা প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞেস করছে যে কিভাবে আপনারা কমিউনিটির সাথে মানে ওদের আইডেন্টিটি মানে ওদের নিডস গুলো আইডেন্টিফাই করেছেন, কিভাবে মানে ওই প্রসেসটা কিরকম ছিল, আর এই যে ফান্ডিং আপনারা পেয়েছেন সিজিআরএফ এর তরফ থেকে, সেই প্রসেসটা আপনাদের জন্য কিরকম ছিল সেটার উপরে যদি একটু কথা বলেন, একটু যে ওই ফান্ডিং এর প্রসেস মানে আর কমিউনিটির সাথে কিভাবে কাজ করছেন, কিভাবে ওদের মানে প্রায়োরিটিস গুলো বা নিড গুলো আইডেন্টিফাই করছেন, ওটা নিয়ে একটু যদি বলেন।
আমি বাংলায় বলি।
হ্যাঁ, বাংলায় বলো, আমি ট্রান্সলেট করে দেবো। সো Shampa would like to speak in Bangla and I will translate for everyone in English here.
ওকে, প্রথমত হচ্ছে যে আমি এই এলাকায় বাস করি অনেকদিন থেকে, মানে আমি হচ্ছে সুন্দরবনের একটা পার্ট। আমি জানি এখানকার সমস্যা, এখানকার যে জিনিসগুলো হারিয়ে যাচ্ছে, ইতিহাস, বিভিন্ন ডিজাস্টারের কারণে, এটা আমি জানি এবং আমরা বহুদিন ধরে কাজ করছি এই মানুষগুলোর সাথে। প্রথম কথা। দ্বিতীয় কথা হচ্ছে যে যখন তাদের সাথে আরো অন্য প্রজেক্টের সাথে কাজ করেছি তখন দেখতাম যে সবাই সবকিছু নিয়ে কাজ করে, কিন্তু তাদের হারিয়ে যাওয়া দুঃখ, বেদনা, কষ্ট বা যেটা হারিয়ে যাচ্ছে সেটাকে প্রমোট করার জন্য কেউ আসলে এইভাবে কাজ করে না। তখন আমরা এটা সিজিআরএফ এর প্রজেক্টের যখন সুযোগটা আসলো তখন আমরা এই বিষয়টা নিয়ে তাদের সাথে কথা বলা শুরু করলাম এবং তাদের মধ্যে এক ধরনের আগ্রহ, ভালো লাগা এবং এক ধরনের নতুন নতুন জন্ম হয়েছে, ব্যাপারটা এরকম মনে হলো। তো সেই জায়গা থেকে তারা কি চায়, তাদের এই কালচারটা, সংস্কৃতি ধরে রাখার জন্য তাদের কাছে জিজ্ঞাসা করার পরে তারা যেভাবে চেয়েছে আমরা ওইভাবেই ডিজাইনটা করেছি এবং ওইভাবে কাজ করে যাচ্ছি।
Thank you, Shampadi. So what Shampa is sharing, that they, so she, where she lives and works, she has been living and working there for many, many years now, many decades now. So she's very rooted in the community and culture where she works. And this opportunity, this NELD funding opportunity was very rare. So this cultural erosion and traditionals that they are kind of fading away, this is not new in their region. Sundarbans is one of the most vulnerable regions in the world. So they have been experiencing this for many, many decades now. But due to this NELD funding, this was a rare opportunity for her and her organization to actually go and talk to the community that this time we have a funding which enables us to work on something like this, where we can actually reach out to people, talk to them about what is it that they want in terms of restoration and preservation of their culture and how they would like to take it forward. So I think that is what Shampadi is sharing here, that this NELD funding has been a rare opportunity for them to enable that process.
Thank you so much, Shampa and Ritu, for that answer. We are running out of time, so I am going to hand over to close this webinar now, but we are making a note of questions in the chat that we will be able to share answers to via email. So if you do have a question, please do put it in the chat before the end of the session, and that way we can make sure it's answered as a follow-up. And that's true if you have questions about any of the partners who weren't necessarily represented here today, because we can get those answers for you. So we're almost at the hour, so I'm now going to pass over to a member of CJRF's governing board to close us out. Pato Kelasitse is a climate justice advocate from Botswana, and she's the founder of Sustain 267, a platform focused on amplifying the voices of Africans in climate action. And that includes those on the front lines, policymakers, researchers, and climate solution implementers. She also serves as a climate action and sustainability lead at Climate Action Network South Africa. Pato is going to share some reflections on what we've heard today to close off the event. So I will hand over to her now.
I'm no longer with the South African Climate Action Network, but yes, the rest of it is true. My name is Pato, like Fiona said, and I'm with the CJR board. And on reflecting, firstly, I just want to say thank you so much to our partners who are on the call and the people who presented, and to our partners, their generosity with the knowledge. This was participatory. We tried to do, well, we're doing, not trying, a participatory method. And for that to work, we needed a lot of participation from the partners, and they really came through for us. And through the input that they were so generous with, we're able to get the results that, some of the results that were presented here today. Yeah, and then also in reflecting, so I've been a loss and damage negotiator for Botswana for about the last 4 years, and some of the work that is done by some of our partners, and through the loss and damage funding we were doing, it really brought home and gave so much life to some of the negotiations we were having in the room. We're not talking about loss and damage, and it's not just conceptual. There's now this body of work that CJRF, in partnership with the partners, has now put out there that informs that loss and damage, it's not just numbers, it's lives, it's culture, it's memories, it's relationship, it's connections, it's all of these things. And yeah, I was particularly passionate about the loss and damage work, and I was really happy to be part of the part of the committee that was working on it. Between you and I, this is a secret. It's probably one of my favorite. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. It was my favorite part of granting that we did. I know we shouldn't have favorites, but if I had a favorite, it would be that. And this is a secret between you and I, or 70 of us. I trust it will be it will be safe with us. But yeah, I think the success of this project, I mean, the success of this work and some of the results of it has, we're hoping that, well, it will also inform how we do some of our other work in ensuring that we do continue to get funds to those who need it most in the way that they need it to arrive, and that it's able to, it's able to go to the things that they need most, some of the things that won't necessarily be in a UN report because there's no data. They'll tell you about culture, they'll tell you about a sinking grave that someone's grandchildren can't now go and visit. So my reflection in total is just to say thank you so much. This work has been very eye-opening for me, even as someone who has worked in loss and damage for this long. There were so many things that I learned, and I look forward to connecting with all of you. And this will definitely inform our future work, is at least the best parts of it. And yeah, thanks to the team that put this together, and all the best. Lots of love from Gaborone in Botswana. Bye, everyone. Back to you, Fiona.
Thank you so much, Pato. And I'm going to close us out very briefly because we are at the top of the hour. Just very quickly, thank you so much to our partner organizations who've engaged today. This was really fantastic to see so many wonderful stories and examples. Special thanks to the Scottish Government for their courageous and groundbreaking decision to be the first wealthy nation to fund loss and damage at COP26 and to follow that up with funding specifically for NELD. CEDARF is releasing a new strategy which treats adaptation, resilience, and L&D, including NELD, holistically. So stay tuned. Even though this body of work is wrapping up and this grant with Scotland is wrapping up, we will stay in this space. Please sign up for our newsletter. There should be a link in the chat here for you to do that. And then also special thanks to the team at Greenhouse for their engagement with this and their support on this event. Finally, thank you to Aisha and to Ritu and the rest of the CEDARF team who have made this possible, and to all of you, our audience, for joining us to learn and celebrate and contribute. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.
Everyone.
Thank you all. Bye. Thank you all. Bye-bye.